What if I told you NASA once tried to land spacecraft using machines that look like flying bathtubs, upside-down airfoils, and wingless potatoes? Because during the 1960s, engineers faced a terrifying problem. How do you bring astronauts home from space without dropping them into the ocean like falling debris? Their answer sounded completely insane. Remove the wings, shape the fuselage itself into a lifting surface, then throw a test pilot inside and hope it glides better than a brick. And somehow, it worked. But getting there involved violent crashes, prank wars between NASA and Air Force pilots, a buried World War II bomb discovered beneath a rocket plane, and one pilot nearly getting thrown into an empty swimming pool because the story behind NASA's lifting bodies was every bit as strange as the aircraft themselves.
Most stories have another side. This one's just a little stranger.
I'm Bill, and this is Buffalo Air Park. Let's dive in. When most people think about the space race, they picture giant rockets, moon landings, and astronauts splashing safely into the ocean beneath parachutes. But by the early 1960s, NASA already wanted something better. Ocean recoveries were expensive, unpredictable, and required entire fleets of ships and helicopters waiting in exactly the right place. So engineers started asking a very strange question. What if a spacecraft could glide home and land on a runway instead? There was just one problem. Wings created enormous heat during re-entry. They also added weight. And in spaceflight, extra weight is the enemy. So NASA and the Air Force proposed something radical. What if the body itself generated lift? No wings, just shape. That idea became the lifting body program. And honestly, some of these aircraft looked completely ridiculous. The first proof of concept was NASA's tiny M2-F3, the famous flying bathtub I talked about briefly in a previous video. A plywood spacecraft literally towed behind a Pontiac Catalina convertible across the Mojave Desert, and somehow it worked, which led to larger, rocket-powered lifting bodies capable of simulating spacecraft re-entry profiles. That's where things started getting dangerous. The first major heavyweight lifting body was the Northrop M2-F3. And to understand the later M2-F3, you first have to understand why the F2 nearly killed its pilot. The aircraft itself looked unstable before it even moved, a blunt half cone with tiny fins and barely any wings at all. Unfortunately, it flew that way too. Pilots reported terrifying side-to-side oscillations known as Dutch roll. Then came May 10, 1967. Test pilot Bruce Peterson was bringing the M2-F3 down for landing at Edwards Air Force Base when a rescue helicopter drifted directly into his landing path. Peterson radioed nervously, "That chopper's gonna get me." Distracted and running out of altitude, he touched down before the landing gear fully locked. The M2-F3 slammed into the dry lake bed at over 250 miles per hour. Then it flipped. Again and again. The aircraft disintegrated across the desert, and somehow, Bruce Peterson survived. Barely. A later staph infection cost him the vision in his right eye, but he lived. If that crash footage looks familiar, there's a reason. Hollywood later used that real accident footage in the opening credits of The $6 Million Man. Instead of abandoning the program, NASA rebuilt the wreckage into the M2-F3. The biggest change? A third vertical fin added to the centerline. And incredibly, that single modification transformed the aircraft from unstable to surprisingly controllable. The M2-F3 eventually reached Mach 1.6 and over 71,000 feet. Not bad for something that many engineers thought would fall out of the sky like a refrigerator. And because this was the 1960s, the weirdness didn't stop there. Before one scheduled M2-F3 flight in 1970, a mechanic inspecting the lakebed spotted something half buried beneath the aircraft. It turned out to be a live World War II-era photoflash bomb. Right under the rocket plane, the base evacuated the area, halted supersonic flights so sonic booms wouldn't accidentally detonate it, and carefully removed the bomb using padded tools. Only at Edwards Air Force Base could a rocket plane launch be delayed by unexploded wartime ordnance. Meanwhile, another lifting body was fighting its own problems. The Northrop HL-10 looked completely different from the M2 series. Instead of being rounded underneath, it resembled an upside-down airfoil. Its first flight in 1966 was a disaster. Airflow separated around the fins so badly that the aircraft became dangerously unstable. After a terrifying 3-minute flight, the HL-10 was grounded for over a year and earned the nickname the Hangar Queen. But after engineers redesigned the fin shape, everything changed. The HL-10 suddenly became the best handling lifting body in the entire program. Pilots loved it. Well, mostly. Bruce Peterson later described the final approach as landing at the bottom of a 30-degree dive-bombing run, and apparently, success made everybody a little too comfortable. During one legendary prank war, NASA crews borrowed Air Force pilot Jerry Gentry's personal Ford, painted it zinc chromate primer green, and covered it in giant flower decals. This was serious aerospace research, conducted by people who behaved like overgrown teenagers with rocket engines. Then came the Air Force entry into the program, the Martin Marietta X-24A, or, as many people called it, the Flying Potato. The X-24A looked awkward, bulky, and almost unfinished. But underneath that strange shape was a serious goal, creating a lifting body capable of controlled, precision landings after re-entry. Its early flights were chaotic. During one glide flight, the control system malfunctioned and locked the aircraft into violent oscillations. On another, the rocket exhaust unexpectedly pitched the nose upward, forcing the pilot to wrestle the aircraft back onto profile. Then, after Jerry Gentry completed his first X-24A flight, the team celebrated in classic test pilot fashion. They threw him into the Officers Club swimming pool. Unfortunately, nobody checked whether the pool actually had water in it. Gentry climbed out with cracked front teeth, which honestly feels like the perfect summary of the entire lifting body era. Everything about this program sounded reckless, improvised, completely absurd, and yet, these strange little aircraft changed the future of spaceflight. The lifting body program proved you could survive re-entry and glide to a controlled runway landing without massive wings or heavy jet engines. Those lessons fed directly into the development of the Space Shuttle, and it all started with engineers asking a question that sounded ridiculous at the time. Can a wingless brick actually fly? Turns out, yeah, it could. And that wraps up another tale from aviation's stranger side. Until next time, keep your eyes on the skies.